brings, we will try to answer it.
So tonight we are here to honor our colleague Charles Wilbert, professor and playwright, and he, being the consummate writer that he is, has scripted everything that we have. Thank you, Charles. He is retiring at the end of the semester. He has served NHC and SNHU for 51 years. Employee in the history of the school.
Wow.
In a few moments, professional actors will read excerpts from 2 of Charles's several plays. But we begin the evening with the video clip of the opening scene of Ice Dreamers, Charles's 130-page, 2-act script written 12 years ago. It premiered on this very stage in 2009.
Ice Dreamers is about England's famed Antarctic explorer Robert Falcon Scott and the electrifying bohemian Kathleen Bruce. They met in 1906 and married in 1908.
And one reason Charles wrote Ice Dreamers is that he had taken a class of students to Boston to see a production of another play about Scott. It centered on Scott reaching the South Pole, then perishing weeks later on the frozen Great Barrier.
In that play, Kathleen Bruce is no more than a solitary mute stick figure. She appears in a snapshot of a scene, a lonely widow perched on an English pier, staring grimly at the sea. Charles's research into the actual relationship of the couple revealed a totally different picture. At the hobnobbing social events of London's upper crust in the early 1900s, Scott was shy, uneasy, and retiring. By contrast, Kathleen was a dancing dervish, a live wire of exuberance and wit.
Some preliminary information about Ice Dreamers before the video runs. Charles's historical play opens on the stage of Harry Moore's New Theatre in London. It is the evening of February 3rd, 1907. Captain Robert Scott has just delivered a lecture lantern show to raise national interest and financial support for his attempt to become the first person to reach the South Pole. Let's join that audience.
I may be wheezing.
Pathetic geezer, begging for applause. I detest this specimen.
But give me Harry Moore, handsome at 50-some, still dances. That's how tickled I am tonight. This grand opening, my grand opening, February 3rd, 1907, stirred by my purchase of this venerable theatre. And gratified, nay, blessed, to be the father of this dazzling phenomenon, Medium Jane, London's hottest ticket, the greatest communicator with the dead now living. When my spellbinding daughter crosses the mortal threshold, her only return is from beyond, and what happy returns for her father. And thrilled to the spine to share my stage with Captain Robert Falcon Scott, the explorer we're hoping reaches the South Pole before any impudent American, vulgar German, or haughty Frenchman. The quote in our program sums it best. Explorer James Cook defined Antarctica, James Ross discovered it, and Captain Robert Scott penetrated it.
Oh, penetration at last!
You imply that the Honorable Captain Scott will not penetrate further.
I don't imply, I question. Is the sea boy at 39 hardy enough?
I assure you, Captain Scott will, if necessary, pick and dig and bore his way through every iceberg in Antarctica to secure the South Pole for the British Empire. That satisfy you?
Jolly well. Carry on.
Well, on that triumphant note, I will conclude our evening, ladies and gentlemen, theatre friends and dignitaries. And oh, what dignitaries! They're marching out. Sir Clements Markham, President of the Royal Geographic Society for 12 years and Captain Scott's premier benefactor. Thank you, sir, for gracing my modest hall. And there exits the up-and-coming dramatist George Bernard Shaw. Why not rip this theatre for your next comedy? And there, behind him, barely visible, the tiny but gigantically talented James Barry. Next season, move Peter Pan to the New Moor Theatre. And what? He's left already? Sir Clements Markham, illustrious member of Captain Scott's first Antarctic expedition, what a polarizing pair. Scott and Shackleton, they define endurance. The photograph, I predict, of our lifetime. Scott and Shackleton are wrapping the Union Jack around the South Pole. Great Britain, first and foremost. What good Englishman could doubt it?
I doubt it.
Well, then you're no damn good. Get out of England.
Get off the stage, Moore.
This theatre belongs to me.
Nobody belongs in the theatre who cannot remember lines. A week ago, that fossil approached me to audition for my new play. I asked him to declaim a passage from dramatic literature so I can assess your voice. He went completely blank.
Now I recognize you. Sebastian Buckley, subversive playwright who attacks our national heroes. For shame!
Dry rot. Abandon the stage. You have nothing to declare.
What self-respecting actor would endanger his reputation, nay, his sanity, delivering your poisonous lines?
Rancid ham. Off with you. You have missed your time.
Missed my time, eh? You know what you and that blighted baggage next to you missed tonight?
Can you remotely remember?
By arriving late, you missed Captain Scott's riveting narrative and his spellbinding magic lantern show, a celebration of his 3-year discovery voyage. Hereafter, a fixed policy in the New Moor Theatre. No admittance to latecomers.
A sounder policy. Close your doors to everyone. You've nothing to offer but hearsay from the dead.
Hereafter, a dress code. Those remnants draped on you, are they hand-me-downs from a rag picker?
From the same cloth as yours. A trifle baggy on me, but a starving dramatist doesn't fare as well as a gluttonous theatre owner who's had it all given to him.
From heavy debt and heavier sorrow, I have lifted myself up by my own bootstraps, you sloth of Paris.
Oh, not quite like pulling myself up by my own bootstraps. If only I, like you, Mr. Impresario, had a strapping young child to enrich me. Come on, let's run. We've had our fun.
I'll poke fun a black eye or two for each of you.
Father, for mother's sake, give leave to the patrons and close the doors.
Indeed, my precious buttercup. Good night. And don't forget, tomorrow evening could be your family spectral night. Medium Jane, communicating with the dearly departed. Yours, mine, nearly everybody's. Plenty of handbells in the lobby, verifying her death-defying intimacies. Grab a bunch and pass them out in the streets.
A medium in our midst. 1,000 deaths before I yield my secrets to a single medium. Ice cold.
Plodding like a circus ass. Were your toes congealed at birth like the devil's, or do you mark my shattered leg?
My companion's missing his toe.
If it'll help your companion, I'll give him my foot.
Come alive, mate!
Oh, bad luck! Bad luck blowing a whistle in my theater, you tramp! Totally uninvited. Grab 2 chairs in the lobby and bang their way in.
That woman who whistled?
May she be blasted with bad luck. I assure you, if I ever see her face again.
Impossible to see her face, but that siren whistle.
The prostitutes whistle in Piccadilly.
She, playfully incognito, sizing me up when I lecture.
He didn't hear a word. You just finished and sat down when they barged in and bowed. Thieves of popularity, out to steal the thunderous applause meant for you.
Thunderous? Really?
Any louder and my delicate, damnably expensive Italian light globes in the lobby would have shattered. Oh, excuse me. Superstitious. I'm very superstitious in the theatre. A diabolical, unaffordable first expense if those globes would shatter. I'll be back in a minute.
I can't linger. Sir Markham expects me. Invitations, dinners, parties, receptions, parties, honored guest and honored guest. How the fat list grows. You'd think I'd already won the poll. It's over. My romanticized travelogue. Go home now. Madam, you should remove yourself. I presume Moore, the owner, will soon be locking on. My talks have put some people to sleep. This is the first time I've ever sunk anybody into a coma. Could my lectures be getting more profound?
Do not return to a
Jesus, why would I abandon?
Come back. Tomorrow.
I may be at sea.
See me. At 6. 2 hours before I perform. Mum's calling. I must depart. Your scrapes, bruises, brushes with death. Fascinating. Your lantern show, billed as magical. But you, sir, are magic to the core.
A lecture hall, New Hampshire School of Accounting and Secretarial Science, downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. An open curtain, downstage, center, a chair and a table, the latter holding a lectern. To one side of the lectern, a pitcher of water and a glass. On the other side rest note cards and a pair of horn-rimmed reading glasses. Upstage, a luggage trunk is on its end. A brown corduroy jacket neatly draped over one corner of the trunk. An old scratchy recording of The Trail of the Lonesome Pine begins to play. After a moment, the music stops. The stage brightens. Enter Gertrude Stein, a short, sturdy woman, 60 years old, with a leather attaché case tucked under one arm. The iron gray hair atop her monumental head is close-cropped. She wears a loose brown homespun jacket, a white silk shirt, woolly stockings, and sandals. Pinned to her collar of her white silk blouse is a large, round coral brooch. Her face instantly expands into a warm, engaging smile as she nods to the audience.
New Hampshire, New Hampshire, November 1934 in New Hampshire. I came here, and here I am, at a little college above a store.
She places the attaché case on the trunk, opens the former to reveal its contents, several bound manuscripts.
Welcome to New Hampshire, Miss Stein.
Hello to New Hampshire School of Accounting and Secretarial Science. Your 2-year business may one day, a wonder day, become a university. So I'll be extracurricular quick to say New Hampshire School of Accounting and Secretarial Science on this 18th of November, 1934. Titles change. You and names change. Education is valuable, but everything is variable. I am Gertrude Stein, and my business is writing.
Briskly moves downstage to the table and lectern, suddenly aware she has automatically gripped the lectern.
In my previous public lectures, I yoked myself to the lecterns. But in my present state, here and now, in your small New England state, I might wander, lecturing as I digress. Please, stay with me as I wander in your wonderful state.
Oh, we'll follow you, Miss Stein. And we'll even give you a better reception they gave you at Harvard.
Indeed. Yesterday, I lectured twice at Harvard to reactions varied, even antithetical. At one end, the critical end, was Harvard's Henry Seidel Canby, saying, Stein's musings constitute stupidity worse than madness. Thank heaven there are Harvards to conserve tradition and guide taste, to raise the grotesque and the absurd to the plane of the serious is to render a disservice to literature.
Stein laughs.
And who else at the other end? The creative end. But Stein admonishing Seidel. In my time, I am the only one. My words and my sentences do get under the skin of some. The important thing is to not let the critics crawl under the writer's skin. So yesterday, undaunted, I lectured twice at Harvard. And between ending and starting over, I met a man who said, how do you do? A splendid story. You're Harry A. Shapiro, career accountant, certified proprietor of your storefront, New Hampshire College. On a sudden whim, he shyly, softly said, between lecturing at Harvard and Dartmouth, might you condescend to address my little college? How could I condescend, I said. I never looked down at business. And if I did, I'd clearly see business holding me up. For years, I've lived on family business, investments in San Francisco properties, my oldest brother wisely made and gladly shared. So it is not in my interest to condescend to business. This preliminary business settled, your President Shapiro proposed I talk about the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. But why, I said. Since it was published 1 year ago, my Alice has been a runaway bestseller. Don't students in accounting and secretarial science read bestsellers? They want successful careers, Harry A.B. Shapiro said. Sometimes only successful careers. So why not, Miss Stein? Especially in these years of our Great Depression, talk about success. Alice's runaway success. Your literary success. Mr. Shapiro, I thundered, I have a good deal to say about success, and none of it is very good. Furthermore, Mr. Shapiro, before I came to America to lecture on literature, I said there is not enough money in the world to persuade me to stand up before a horde of curious people interested in my personality rather than my work. Suddenly, gentle President Shapiro wanted to rescind his sudden whim. But, Mr. Shapiro, I added, I never say no in America. Not in America. I learned 11 days ago, my first time in an airplane, I learned I should always go anywhere once. So here I stand before you. Of course, your certified proprietor had to consent to certain specifications. No dinners or luncheons in my honor, as I prefer to eat privately with my maid and my bodyguard, and my typist. Sales of tickets not to benefit any fund or cause. Payment to me of $100. I charge clubs $250, but I charge schools only $100 because students are way more flattering. In addition, I will not lecture before audiences of females only. Nor will I speak before an audience exceeding 500 persons. I cannot conceive the possibility of interesting more than 500 persons at a time. More than 500 individuals to hear anybody is absurd.
She pretends to count heads.
I see this body is substantially under 500. Good.
The final excerpt this evening is from Charles's full-length drama entitled Dancer on the Floor of Heaven. It focuses on an incident in the life of Maxwell Bodenheim, a virtually penniless, down-and-out American poet and novelist grubbing to survive in the first half of the 21st century.
The incident begins with a lover's quarrel between Max and Peggy Grace, a ballet dancer determined to audition for Sam Slater, a booking agent. For months, Peggy has practiced a dance routine she has named Lavender and Old Lace. Slater, however, possesses a reputation throughout Chicago for sexually assaulting female dancers. Max angrily forbids Peggy to audition for Slater. She refuses, they split up. After 2 weeks, Max returns to Peggy's tenement housing seeking to reconcile with his fiancée.
The calloused landlady of the property heartlessly spits the news at Max that Peggy has died of pneumonia. She now lies buried in Chicago's Woodlawn Cemetery. Charles has selected a pair of scenes to be read, scenes 3 and 4. Scene 3 takes place just before sunrise. The setting is a street corner close to the tenement room once occupied by Peggy Grace.
Max is staring up at the window of Peggy's former residence. His plan is to visit her grave later that morning. But first he needs to find a pair of lavender shoes similar in color to Peggy's ballet shoes. Afterwards, he'll carry them to Woodlawn Cemetery and place them on Peggy's fresh grave. Then he'll attach a brand new love poem to one of the lavender shoes, a poem he'll compose en route to the cemetery. But it's 5:30 in the morning. Where and how to obtain the right lavender shoes to pay his respects to Peggy? Enter Dixie Cup, a 35-year-old streetwalker prowling for her final customer before she calls it a night. She's wearing lavender shoes.
Time, just before dawn. Place, the same as the last with 2 slight additions. A soft red light now pulses along the street, its source in offstage traffic light blinking through the night. The second addition, a sign is nailed to the side of the tenement that reads, "Under new management, Sam Slater and Associates." Enter Max. Nattily attired as in the previous scene, he positions himself on the sidewalk where he can readily gaze upon the corner room. He removes his top hat and holds it over his heart. After a moment, enter Dixie Cup. In her early 30s, she is provocatively dressed. She does not notice Max, for she is gazing down at her lavender shoes. She hobbles in them. Dixie Cup is almost upon Max before she takes him in. Her tired and drawn face brightens at the prospect of a last-minute customer. She withdraws a few feet and tidies her hair and outfit. Then she advances.
Hey, big boy.
What the? I hear everything that moves on the street.
Street savvy, huh?
I gotta stay one step ahead of the coppers.
Don't worry about the police. See that sign?
The one that says dead end?
Dead end. I'm talking about the sign on the building. Sam Slater and Associates. Since Mr. Slater took over the neighborhood, the police have been good apples to us girls.
It'll take bushels of healing apples for me to believe that.
Mr. Slater even ordered the city to fix the corner traffic light for our safety.
With all the slithering red light, night still lies coldly on this street.
Mr. Slater's newly assigned police officers are a girl's best friend.
Best customers, too.
Those that pay.
Not too many do.
Nope. But it's nice to have the protection. I got a baby girl, so I have to be safe on the streets. What's your name? Big boy.
Big boy? No, I often answer to Max.
Right on the money, wasn't I? I'm Dixie Cup.
What is in your name? Let's run the gamut. Pick up, flare up, pent up, loving cup.
What's all that mean?
At the moment it signifies for me, you're a bright and early morning toss-up.
You high on something?
Now I'm low down on everything, my voluminous Dixie cup.
Why you been standing outside my bedroom?
Wait. You occupy that room?
Just moved in. If you show me the money, I can give you a hands-on tour.
No, I'm not up to it.
Why up at 5:30 in the morning if you're not up to it?
Oh, I'm drifting. I'm just drifting.
You're no drifter in those swell duds.
Yeah, every article is plucked from a pawn shop. Perhaps you know the place. Gloria's?
Glory be! Every street girl's left some valuable item on the shelves at Gloria's. A man's suit doesn't say much about him, but a man's wallet does. What are you carrying on you, Maxie?
Nowhere near the minimum to sue you.
I ain't expecting Christmas at the end of an empty April night. So how much can you spare?
Your shoes.
What about them?
They're lavender.
What's wrong with lavender?
I revere lavender. How much would you charge for them?
Maxie, I'm selling my body, not my shoes.
Make an exception and I'll make you an exceptional offer.
Sorry, they're my only pair. And professional streetwalkers don't pussyfoot barefoot in Chicago.
She reaches into her handbag and pulls out a key.
My feet are aching. I'm dog tired. Let's go inside.
She enters the open hallway. Max, however, remains stationary. She turns back and addresses him.
You coming in for a sprawl?
I'm coming for you all, my busty Dixie cup.
Damn, you have a funny way of talking. What part of the country are you from?
The underbelly?
So tired. Let me see your wallet first.
Fast enough to get to that. Hey, there, you're right on the money.
No guys get in who can't pony up. I got a sick daughter to support.
He reaches into a pocket and pulls out his wallet.
On borrowed bucks, I'll spend some time with Dixie Cup.
He opens the wallet.
2 fivers on permanent loan from my Broadway backer.
10 lousy bucks.
That's it.
I'm practically selling myself.
Occasionally in trade, it does come to that.
All right, but you're out before breakfast.
promptly after dessert.
Dixie Cup ushers Max into the room. It now has a nightstand.
Oh, such warmth I never anticipated.
After I handle you, you'll be steaming.
She sits on the edge of the bed and with a struggle pries off her shoes.
Shoes are killing me. Too petite.
Hey, careful, careful.
Soon as I hustle enough moolah, I'm gonna buy big, black, loose-fitting boots, like my name suggests. I fill a big cup all over.
She starts to undress.
Gargantuan by no stretch of the imagination. Those lavender shoes, did you happen to find them at Gloria's?
Nope. Found them stashed under the wood stage. Must have belonged to the previous tenant.
Must have.
The girls upstairs told me that she was a trained actress and dancer.
On that stage, she became a legend.
Before I go any further, Maxie, honey, put the 2 bills on the nightstand where I can see them.
Max opens his wallet and deposits the 2 $5 bills on the nightstand.
Now, Maxie, if I can keep my eyes open. I haven't slept in 3 days. My baby's with my sister, a long subway trip.
Dixie Cup slides under the bed covers. She wiggles her feet free at the end of the covers.
Mind if I stick them out? They're on fire.
Best feet forward.
Don't let me conk out on you.
She draws the covers over her head. Max pounces on the lavender shoes and smacks faces on them. Dixie Cup bolts upright in them.
Smooching my shoes, you damn pervert! Can't you Johns ever act normal? I'm nursing a sick baby, so you better not hurt me.
Oh, hurt you? The mother of an ailing child? I exist to nourish others.
Then why are you drooling on my shoes?
All shoes aside, I am a penurious poet.
A pen? Well, I guess it's better than a pervert. So, that's why you've been muttering under your breath?
Well, I'm suffering from poet's block.
You mean writer's block?
It's poet's block when the heart aches.
Oh.
Suddenly I want to sing.
Sing?
Yeah, recite to you.
Recite what?
I want to recite a brief passage from Walt Whitman.
Is that your pen name?
Don't I wish? My Walt's a great poet.
A friend of yours.
If he were, he'd be my best friend.
If that's how you want to blow your $10, be my customer. But after 10 minutes, I'm kicking you out.
3 lines. From To a Common Prostitute, the title of Walt's poem.
Guess that's me. Common all over.
Not till the sun excludes you, do I exclude you. Not till the waters refuse to glisten for you, and the leaves to rustle for you, do my words refuse to glisten and to rustle for you.
Thank you. Awfully tired. Slapsy Maxie. Haven't slept in 3.
She slips under the covers. Within seconds, she is asleep. Max tiptoes to the nightstand, collects the 2 bills, then moves to the lower end of the bed. He contemplates Dixie Cup's 2 feet, then wedges a $5 bill between 2 toes in each foot. He steps back.
To these aching feet that I have pounded miles and miles of city streets.
Max scoops up the lavender shoes, departs the room, hurries outside, and disappears into the streets. Time. A few hours after the previous scene. Place. A plot in Chicago's Woodlawn Cemetery. The slightly raised earth indicates a recent burial. Enter Max, dressed as he appeared in the early morning. He carries a brown bag. Max halts a short distance from the grave and addresses it.
Tell me you're away counting stars, Peggy Grace.
He takes another step toward the gravesite.
Gone too soon. Now you're dancing far beyond the moon. Headstrong, then capricious, both Bodenheim and Orpheus. After looking back and losing Eurydice, both are doomed to never-ending exodus.
He moves to the graveside.
Peggy, the shoes you would not pawn, this morning I brought them for a song. May you pass your endless nights in holy bliss. Atop this sacred eminence, I place your lavender dancing shoes, size 6.
He pulls from a pocket his lavender journal and opens it.
A farewell poem, Peggy, recorded in our special journal. The only page I'll ever remove from the hallowed binding. I swear to you, this journal is now my Bible. Dancer on the floor of heaven, these once industrious shoes now dream of you.
He gently tears the page from the journal, folds it, and slips it into one of the 2 lavender shoes. He then sinks to his knees and gazes upon the freshly turned earth.
We'll have our actors come out and take a bow.
Thanks for having us, Charles.
We're going to have a short intermission. When we resume, you'll hear tributes from a few people who know Charles as a teacher.
But prior to those remarks, you'll hear from Charles himself. The man we're honoring tonight will take the stage right after the intermission. We'll come back in 10 minutes.
Love it as always.
I am telling you.
Testing, testing.
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah, and you just pull it towards you. Yeah, yeah, good shape. Absolutely.
I just know my voice going back there.
What's that? Yeah, the microphones are. Should I freeze? I can't tell the terrorist. How far for an opening?
Oh, you never burned down. Well, you never burned down. Me and I went down to the restaurant.
Oh, that's okay. Let's just be surprised. Yes, yeah.
Buying hot chocolate.
Somebody might be sitting there.
Then go back here.
All right.
I'll try to keep the same distance from this mic. It is alive now, isn't it? Yeah. After nearly 51 years, I can give you so many college stories. But for this event, I've selected one, and I'm calling it my 10 most bizarre days on this campus. It has nothing to do with teaching. Though it happened some 30 years ago, the winter of 1987, 1988, I think it's relevant tonight. My custom in public speaking is not to read the manuscript. In fact, nearly all of my lecturing in classroom is extemporaneous. But this evening, I'm reading this material because it'll be faster and give speakers following me more time on stage. So let's plunge into this odd story. It's early December 1987. I don't know where you were back then, but I was seated in the AV studio on campus, waiting for other faculty to show up for a committee meeting. My gaze wanders over the chipped and battered walls of the AV studio, and I say, this place needs sprucing up. Why hasn't maintenance allowed the studio? Why has it allowed it to deteriorate? Then the notion suddenly strikes me, why don't I volunteer to rehabilitate the walls? My father was a carpenter, builder. I did plenty of painting for him. I'm professionally qualified. I leap up from my chair and commence estimating the time it'll take me to patch the holes, then apply 2 substantial coats of paint to walls that are 18 feet high. No doubt it's a formidable undertaking. And I'll have to finish before the second Monday of January. That's when faculty will gather, the opening day of the spring semester. Now I figure if I start on New Year's Day, hey, I can do it in 10 days. But first I need permission for maintenance. I walk down the hill to the office of Chris Morris, then head maintenance. I deliver my offer. Chris's initial response, Charles, don't you have anything better to do? No, I honestly replied, I don't. After fixing me with a pitiful glance, Chris fires a follow-up question. How do you intend painting such a huge space in just a few days? Scaffolding. Scaffolding, Chris yelled. He seemed ready to scold me. Scaffolding on wheels, I explained. Something like a Trojan horse. Trojan what? Chris walked as his fist banged on the desk. His ruddy Irish face is turning a shade redder, as I remember. Excuse me, Chris, I muttered. Every now and then I do sound like a teacher of literature. Come back tomorrow, Chris commands. I need to think about it. The next day I was back in his office, and Chris proceeds to lay down 3 rules. Number 1, no Trojan scaffolding. Number 2, you have to use paint the college purchased a year ago. Because any other painting, you pay for it out of your own pocket. Rule number 3, repeat, no Trojan scaffolding. Chris's final line of dismissal, I'm going to Florida for vacation. I expect you to follow my rules. I make a beeline for Home Depot. Perhaps with the help of his paint department, I can figure out an alternative to scaffolding. Problem solved at Home Depot. A long pole equipment went in to accommodate a 2-foot roller. I'll roll on the paint. Maybe now I can do the AV walls in 5 days, not 10. Just roll it on. It's New Year's Day, 1988. I enter the AV studio with paint rollers, buckets, brushes, taping compound, cement, trowels, sponges, etc. In one corner is all of that paint. A dozen gallons from the stock the college had purchased at a huge discount, I later found out. I pry off the lid of a can. Lord, help me. It's a nasty, sickly yellow. I recoil. Eventually I calm down. This is the color Chris wants. So be it. During my first 2 days on the job, I attacked the holes in the walls. I taped, troweled, sponge taping cement. The 3rd day, I spread yellow. That repulsive yellow. As I paint, I feel I'm spreading an epidemic of yellow fever. Come the 8th day of wallowing in yellow, I realize I can't paint the entire studio this color. It's mentally disturbing. I go back to Home Depot and buy 4 gallons of soothing gray paint at my own expense. 1 section of AV in this color should neutralize the feverish yellow. During the last 3 days of my labor, the outside temperature is dropping. Soon it's below freezing. All the while I encounter nobody else on campus. I feel quite alone. I finish my Herculean task on the 10th day at midnight. My arms and shoulders are so painfully sore from repeatedly lifting and lowering that roller. After I clean my tools, I head for my car, the only car in the parking lot. It's 0. My car is a lemon. Will it start? It does, barely. And I keep proclaiming to myself, I did it. I did it. It's the happiest drive home from this campus I've ever made. The second Monday of January 1988 at the faculty meeting, Dr. James Grace, an academic dean, will surely praise me for my service to the school. I'm in my office, stock 28, just a stone's throw from the AV studio. And I'm waiting for the meeting to start at 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. I falter. I decide not to attend the meeting. Too much spotlight, too much attention for my conference. Maybe I don't want to be recognized. Later that day, I speak to George Kutris, a history teacher at NHC. Was I mentioned during the faculty meeting, George? What was the general reaction to the yellow and gray walls? George Kutris responds, nobody said a thing. Not a thing. Nothing, ladies and gentlemen. Did I learn anything about my 10 bizarre days back in 1988 that might be pertinent tonight? Yes. Unless you're dead, you need to show up. So I'm ready to be recognized. Let us celebrate.
So much rather hear more stories.
Yes.
How many stories did you edit out so I could stand up? So I really want to thank Charles for being so gracious in allowing us to hijack his event a little bit so that we can embarrass him with some words, because as you know, he doesn't like to be recognized. Now, I'm sure there's at least 50 people here that would like to say something about Charles, and after we're done here, I hope we can kind of mingle a little bit and swap some stories. But in the interest of time, I've asked a couple people to share a few words about Charles as a teacher, as a director, as a colleague. I'm David Swain from the English department, so I'll be talking a little bit later on. But first we're going to hear from Paul Rounds, who was one of Charles's very first students. Then we'll hear from Polly St. Hilaire, who was also an early student, but also acted in one of his plays. Then from Mike Warrenda, who's VP of Alumni Affairs and also a former student. Sadly, Patty Lineup can't join us tonight, and then I'll have a couple concluding remarks.
Thank you, David. It's an honor and a privilege to make a few remarks about one of New Hampshire College, Southern New Hampshire University's greatest English professors. In the fall of 1968, I had the honor to be in a freshman English class. I would make sure to wake up early, run down the back stairs of Merrimack Hall, out the back door, into the parking lot behind the Puritan, across the street to the parking lot of Amoscade Bank, and up Hanover Street to the Palace Fruit. Grab a coffee, and if running late, a muffin. I would head 3 doors down Chestnut Street into a long, narrow classroom to start my day off with a bang. Yes, I was in Professor Wilbert's class. A strange seating arrangement. If you were late, you had to go to the back of the room after leaving the muffin on the desk. Reason being, all the good seats in the front were taken. Professor Wilbert was so interesting, the fight was always on for the front row seats in his class. We would learn about writing or have the wonderful fortune to listen to him read an act from one of his plays. The chat in the locker room before practice about signing up for courses seemed to always center around taking marketing class with Dorothy Rogers, since she was easy on the eyes. Or if you really wanted to master English, take Charles Wilbert. because he was the best and his instruction was surpassed by none. I called a few friends to talk about being in Mr. Wilbert's class. First thing out of Joey D's mouth was, "You mean Professor Wilbert, correct?" Joey said in all the classes he took at NHC, the one and only, he never missed an English class with Professor Wilbert. He was an accounting major and even missed advanced accounting classes with Professor Taloin. Gary Gavinelli, Candle with Care Express, says every time he is asked to set up or tear down a show on or off Broadway, he always looks to make sure it is not a play written by Professor Wilbert, because he would feel guilty if he did not find a way to get tickets for himself and his wife. One more person stated he learned more English in one semester at college with Charlie than he did in his 4 years in high school. Just last year, sitting at my desk at Bradbury Union High School, I looked up and saw a gentleman signing in with our receptionist. After his departure towards the classroom, I asked her, "Was that Charlie Wilbert?" She said, "Yes, from Southern New Hampshire University with a dual enrollment program." I lit up like a Christmas tree. Right away, I started bragging to all around that in the fall of 1968, he was my freshman English teacher. This was my 50-year reunion from school. At New Hampshire College, probably one of the best professors at NAC. Much to Charlie's surprise, I jumped him with joy when he returned to the office area. It was tremendous to see him. I would like to thank you for all you have done, the students of New Hampshire College, Southern New Hampshire University. It's going to be almost impossible task to fill your shoes. Professor Wilbert, we greatly miss you. You'll be greatly missed. Thank you for all you've done for the school. As you heard, I was in the locker room. So yes, I am a little bit of a jock, and I was asked to do this next thing. My former coach, athletic director here at New Hampshire College when I went, colleague of Professor Wilbert. I've learned real quick, Joey D, please, I won't make a mistake. Dean of the New Hampshire State Senate, Lou D'Alessandro, is sorry that he could not be here this evening. But he is the chairman of the Council for State Governments, and they're having a meeting in Kentucky right now. So he is at that meeting. So for Coach, Mr. D, or whatever I call him, I'd like to do this. Can you come forward, please, Mr. Wilbert? It reads, the New Hampshire Senate, a resolution. Be it known that the New Hampshire Senate extends its congratulations to Charles Wilbert in recognition of his retirement after more than 50 years teaching at SNHU. And be it further known that the New Hampshire Senate extends its best wishes for well-deserved, happy, and healthy retirement. It's signed Lou D'Alessandro, Senator Louis D'Alessandro, District Number 20, on this date, April 11th, 2019. Woo. Yeah.
Thanks for letting me go after Paul Rounds. Paul, that was just absolutely wonderful. So when David Swain asked if I would come and say a few words about Charlie Wilbert tonight, I was happy to do so, but when he said a few words, asked me if I would do a few words. It is a few words. It's nothing like Paul Brown's. So here we go. It's hard to believe that 40-plus years really have passed since the first time I met Charlie Wilbert, the charming Charlie Wilbert. I was a student back then. Hard to believe. 40 years has passed. Well, I can't recall why I had enrolled in Charlie's class. I do remember being encouraged to participate in one of his plays. I don't remember the title, the story, the content, or all of the characters. But I certainly do remember one character in the play. Her name was Mrs. Busby. Do you remember her?
No.
Let me tell you about her. She wore a yellow quilted bathrobe with fluffy slippers and big rollers in her hair. While Mrs. Busby only had a small part with minimal lines, she forgot a few of those lines on that day. She had to be cued from backstage from an assistant. Certainly not a Tony Award-winning performance, but one that Mrs. Busby has shared a number of times over the last 40 years. If you haven't guessed already, Mrs. Busby was played by none other than me. Thanks to the brilliant casting of Charlie Wilbert. There were more plays that Charlie produced, but what stands out most about, I call him Charlie, but let's call him Professor Wilbert, is his constant upbeat, positive, and larger-than-life attitude, who has touched the lives of so many students here, SNHU and NHC, which is where I started. You've made such an impact here, and we're all really happy for your retirement and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Busby. I know. Oh my God. See what I did? See what you did?
Hi folks, Charles. I'm going to do my best to maintain my distance, but after my disappointing day at Fenway on Tuesday, the Sox took my voice from me. Good evening everyone, my name is Mike Warenda. I serve on the SNHU Alumni Board of Directors. In 1998 I was a freshman at New Hampshire College. I was young, optimistic, and excited to be part of a brand new community of faculty, staff, professors, and peers. It wasn't before long I met Charles Wilbert, CW as everyone knew him and referred to him as here. I had never taken a theater class before this, but with his open mind and most assuredly committed and ever-perpetual calming and elder-like presence, it would be nothing but a worthwhile endeavor. That semester passed by in what seemed like a few minutes. Charles taught us how to turn a story into a live performance, and I participated in my first theatrical play ever. CW left behind an incredible lasting impression of a man who was a cut above the rest, with experience, patience, understanding, and commitment to nurturing New Hampshire College's students, friends, family, and community. On behalf of myself, the Alumni Board of Directors, and the alumni community here at Southern New Hampshire University, thank you, Professor Wilbert, and congratulations on an amazing tenure of more than 50 years at SNHU. We wish you the best of luck and support with your next chosen chapter. Thank you.
I always get the feeling when I talk to Charlie that I've missed all the good jokes. It's you know, when you work with somebody who's been at an institution for a really long time, their sense of history, of course, is really different than yours because they've seen everything. With Charles's permission, I first wanted to share a personal letter from President Emeritus Richard Gustafson that he wrote to Charles recently. Dear Charles, congratulations on your retirement from Southern New Hampshire University after more than 50 years as a distinguished member of the faculty. I believe you are the longest serving member of the faculty and thus have witnessed the remarkable transformation of this institution from its origins on Hanover Street above the Palace Fruit to the River Road campus and now to a dynamic and flourishing university. I remember well your commitment to the humanities and especially to the work of Henry David Thoreau. We enjoyed the performances of the plays you authored as you brought them to life in campus performances with local and professional talent. We were always amazed at what you could imaginatively do within the sterile environment of the old media center of the Shapiro Library in all of its colors. It was a special time for us when we were able to move to the university status in 2000, 2001 and to see the emergence of the School of Liberal Arts and now the School of the Arts and Sciences from the former Humanities Division with its several departments. The Humanities Division gave us a great platform to enhance and expand the liberal arts at the university, as was the basis for elevating the academic profile of the university. You were one of the core faculty that enabled this transition. You should be pleased, proud, and gratified with what you've been able to accomplish in your career at New Hampshire College, Southern New Hampshire University. You've brought English literature and the world of playwriting and performance to generations of students, and I'm sure there are many alumni all over the world who can attribute their knowledge and enjoyment of the theater to their experience in your classes. Best wishes for a long, healthy, productive, and enjoyable retirement, Richard Gustafson. So it's really humbling to be Charles's current chair because I'm just like a blip. It's like this timeline, and then there's this tiny little slice that you or another, colleague occupy. That's very humbling. But Charlie's seen it all, and he always had a smile and a kind word of advice. I think it was earlier this semester or last, I've forgotten. He caught me in the hallway. I was frazzled from some scheduling disaster or some drama going on somewhere, and he just said, it's just all noise. It's just noise. When I joined the faculty as the new Shakespeare guy, he was very patient with me as I expounded on Elizabethan playwrights and why Shakespeare did write the plays, because Charlie at the time was thinking of maybe writing on Thomas Green or heaven forbid, on one of those people who might have written the plays who was not named Shakespeare. I thought it was my duty to warn Charles away from that because it would ruin his career because he'd go down the rabbit hole of the authorship question. And Charlie just smiled and on his own decided to go elsewhere, choose another topic. I still would have loved to see what you came up with. Thomas Green, feathered in our feathers. But we connected when he learned that I lived in Concord, Massachusetts. And I learned that he'd been taking his nature writers students to Concord for years to soak up some of the culture of old Concord and to visit his beloved Thoreau's Walden Pond. Charles, I wanted to get you something. I want you to come up. I wanted to get you something to remember all those trips. Now I know that Walden Pond and the old cabin site is holy ground. Try as I might, I was not able to buy or steal a splinter or a nail from the one true cabin or stool. Instead, I have something that you can actually share with Thoreau and can actually keep in the other Concord, the wrong Concord, where you're actually living. So, recently I took a trowel and went down to the cove on Walden Pond. So that you can keep. I think it's dried out. This is never going to dry out. So this is dirt. I dug this morning 3 feet behind the old woodshed at the cabin site. So maybe you have a spot in your garden, or in your retirement you're actually going to start planting beans. You can fold that into the ground, but keep it with you. So Holy Ground travels. So Concord gets this little honorary patch, if you will. I think, Charles, we have more. There's more. Don't go too far.
Don't go yet.
Yes. Yeah, I know. He may yet be if you've been very tall.
Brenda, where are you?
Oh.
They're up there. So I believe this is from the Alumni Association for you. And Brenda.
Thank you.
Charles and I have been together for 25 years, in September. We're married at 18, and I only knew that he could sing 7 years ago. He has the most beautiful voice, and he sings Gershwin in the morning, but he sings before he goes to school. And he had the semester break, and he said he misses his students, and he wanted to come back. And he's really been so happy teaching here. He loves his students, really. And he's so happy with the school and his colleagues. And so it's just been really, it's been a great career.
And they love him.
Thank you.